Hi, it's the Catholic CEO, Henry Katarna. You know, on our mind these days, a lot of people are communicating with us about this idea of the Catholic economy. It's taking hold. It's an idea that I think people are going to respond to increasingly because they know that the culture is pressing in. If you're a Catholic trying to live by Catholic principles, according to the teachings of the Catholic Church, and you're working in a corporate job somewhere, increasingly it's going to become tough to do that because at some point you're going to be asked to do something against the Catholic faith and you're going to have to choose. I think we all know that this is happening. We're probably experiencing it day by day, little by little. And so the idea of the Catholic economy has grown. And here at the Catholic CEO, we're discussing this every day. We believe that it's possible to create a Catholic economy that will allow us to resist the culture and create employment for Catholics, run Catholic businesses that are exemplary and that are profitable and successful and that create pension plans for us and money and wealth to be distributed to our beneficiaries, and thus respect and restore the Catholic family. So today, a few thoughts on the investment part of the Catholic economy. Because you know, to build businesses, to start them, to grow them, to expand to new geographic markets, to add new products, it takes capital. So today, some thoughts about the capital part of this. I've run an angel investor group for 12 years. I'm an angel investor myself. And I understand the entrepreneurial mind, and I understand the necessity of having some capital to start up. You can bootstrap a certain number of businesses, true, but mostly they require some capital. And this is before bank financing. By the time a bank will look at you, as you know, for a line of credit or a loan, you already have to be profitable and you have to have revenue. So I'm talking about startups where it's necessary to help create a situation where they can start up, have some financing and capital, and then grow to the point where conventional bank financing might kick in. So what's the point of investing in Catholic businesses towards the Catholic economy? One is to build businesses, to build more. We can do startups. We could expand existing Catholic businesses. We could merge. We could do joint ventures. We could do all sorts of creative things, just like the regular economy does, to build Catholic businesses. The end result of this would be to support the Catholic family, which is the foundational unit of society, as you know. And it would allow us, I think, to engage the culture more on our terms, so that at some point we could influence the culture to change laws and regulations and practices, and to reduce some of the pressure on us who are employed in the corporate world. What would we do? Well, let's take a look at three different types of support for the investment part of the Catholic economy. I'd like to discuss briefly grants, that is freely given funds to help support startups. Loans, conventional loans, where you lend people money and they pay you back with interest or without. And then equity, where you actually buy an ownership position in a company. You buy shares in the company. Let's take a look, first of all, at these three mechanisms. One is grants. Would it be possible for Catholics to provide grants to start up businesses? Here's a scenario. In your parish, imagine if you had a few entrepreneurial people who are interested in starting a business. Could be a home-based business, could be a family business, it could be any kind of conventional business. What if inside of a parish, or even at the diocesan level, there were people with financial means who could contribute some money to a fund? Even people without major financial means could contribute modestly in proportion to their ability. A pool of funds would be created within the parish or the diocese, and this pool of funds would be distributed to worthy businesses who would go through a due diligence period and would have advisors, good quality people who know what they're talking about and understand how to do a startup and understand business success. And the money could be dispensed as a grant, unconditional, with certain parameters, the usual due diligence. But just like governments do, and just like certain foundations and private corporations do, they issue grants. And one objection possibly is, well, how much money could we possibly raise in a parish? Maybe there's only going to be $10,000 or $100,000. But what if that were the case? Wouldn't it be interesting to have even a $10,000 pool of grants within your parish to distribute, let's say, to 2 worthy home-based businesses who need to do a startup but have to buy some products, do some research, create some infrastructure, buy some inputs, and so on and so on. There's no reason in the Catholic economy that we couldn't mirror what goes on out in the regular economy. And of course, our grant criteria would be Catholic. It would be fostering Catholic businesses. While at the same time, though, it would be, standard grant criteria so that the good idea would get funded, the poor idea or the idea that's too early would not get funded. So we could develop this thought. Let's move on to the concept of loans. Just like the conventional world out there provides loans, banks, funds, institutions, private lenders, private equity, there's all kinds of people and corporations that provide loans to business under all sorts of conditions. And so once again, what if we at the parish level accumulated a small pool of funds from people willing to put money in and risk it? Yes, there will be a risk because every startup doesn't succeed. Many startups fail. There will be risk. But imagine in the Catholic world, if we had a loan mechanism like this within the parish or even at the diocesan level, where you pooled some money and it would be lent out to various startups, early stage family businesses, home-based businesses, or existing businesses that want to expand to new products, new geographic regions, and so on. What would be wrong with that? You may recall me talking about when my father was alive, how at our parish, there was a credit union started, a modest little credit union that had very little money. But when immigrants were coming, Polish immigrants in this case, were coming to Canada, they received, some of them, loans. If they needed to buy a car or they needed to get started in some way, they received a small, modest loan from the parish credit union, an actual parish credit union. What's wrong with restoring that model to our parishes and providing a little loan mechanism? Would there be risk? Sure, of course, just like any bank, there was risk. Some businesses will fail, some will not. But the point is, we would be then fostering the development of the Catholic economy by creating businesses. And sometimes all people need is a little bit of a loan to get started and have the working capital to get going. Let's move to the idea of equity investments, where we actually pool some funds. Once again, it could be seed capital, angel financing, even venture capital, VC money. There's no reason that we can't have Catholic principles in a pool of funds that would be used to purchase shares in a company, whether an existing company that wants to expand, a startup, an early stage company. This is done all the time. If you look up angel investing, you'll see there are thousands of angel investment groups all over the United States and Canada. There are thousands of deals every year, every month. There are thousands of deals that emerge that cry out for due diligence and equity capital. It's an area that I'm personally very familiar with. There's no reason that we can't have this, even at the parish level, a small fund, once again, put up by people who are willing to risk it. And it doesn't have to be only the wealthiest people in the parish. It can be, because the angel investor is someone who respects the entrepreneurial spirit, it can be just ordinary people who put a small dollar figure in and are willing to risk it, and are willing to, in effect, lose it but not all angel and financing is lost. Much of it succeeds in helping to build a business. And wouldn't we, in the search for the Catholic economy, look for opportunities to help a business get off the ground, knowing that there's risk there, but knowing that the benefit of being able to resist the popular culture out there, being able to start family-based businesses, home-based businesses, being able to run Catholic businesses that once again grow and can then influence the economy and start to turn the culture in the direction that the Catholic world would want it to go. We could be helpful then to startups and early stage companies. We could have shares in a business. We could have non-voting shares. We could have voting shares. We could have seats on boards. We could help to govern startups and early stage companies. We could help to advise them. I'll speak in a few minutes about the advisor concept. And so we could develop these three mechanisms: grants, loans, and equity financing, in a way that completely resembles the regular economy out there. And inside of the Catholic parishes all around North America, there are people who know what they're talking about in business. There are experts. There are executives in businesses. There are startup, home-based business people who've been there, done that, and who could advise properly and to do this. And I believe that there's funds available, because in all my years of raising funds for parish work and for seminaries, I can see that there's capital available. If we could create a vision of the Catholic economy and create these mechanisms of grants, loans, and equity in businesses, we could create the Catholic economy. We could develop new businesses. We could have powerful hiring. We could have powerful influence on the culture. We could provide income and wealth, not only for our own use to support our families, to create jobs and income, pensions, beneficiary bequests, all those things that are important to Catholics, but we could also influence the culture. And so there's some thoughts. Let's now turn to the how. How would we do this? And I'm going to focus on three categories of people. First, the entrepreneur. Second, the investor. And third, the advisor, somebody who's an advisor. Let's look at the entrepreneur. This would be the person inside of your parish or in your diocese or in your wider Catholic community who would want to either start a business or expand an existing business or make a change to an existing business. What does the entrepreneur need? Well, the entrepreneur needs usually a place to work. Now, if it's a home-based business or a bricks and mortar business where you actually have a production facility, you will need a place. If it's in the home, well, it's perhaps you might argue it's being paid for already. It's already part of the home. If it's a bricks and mortar building that you have to buy or lease, well, that's an issue for financing, which we talked about a few minutes ago. But if you're a software business or a technology or a startup that for the first 6 or 12 months only needs co-working space, check it out. Co-working space is a space where people have internet connection. They have a boardroom, a meeting room. They have desk space. They have table space to work. These are very popular all across North America. Co-working space. What's wrong with the concept of having co-working space in the parish hall, in one of the parish buildings, in the basement of the church? Now, some will argue, well, the Catholic Church has tax-free status with certain of its facilities, and we start putting co-working space, which means business, into these places, we're going to have tax implications. Maybe, but I'm not so convinced that that's not possible, because there are many co-working spaces that get tax advantages from their local municipality, their local city or town. And so I know there's going to be issues with everything I suggest here. There will be issues, but they're all surmountable because the regular business community out there surmounts them. Why can't we as Catholics? So from the entrepreneurial perspective, we want to do startups. So we need co-working space, let's say. Then we need ideas. How do we get ideas? How do we get input? Well, in the co-working space, you could bring in speakers. You could bring in experts, not only from within your parish, but from without your parish, outside of your parish. You could bring in people who know what they're talking about, who can give advice, who can examine the situation of the startup, and then provide worthy advice so that they can avoid the learning curve problems and avoid all the common mistakes. I've done this for 30 years as an example. I have mentored and advised startups for over 30 years now. And I can assure you that there are very smart people out there, wise people who can help because they've been there, done that. They've seen how it works. They know the mistakes, whether they've made them in business or not. They know how you can improve your situation. And so from the entrepreneurial perspective, we could support our entrepreneurs. We could support those who want to expand their business and grow a new market or introduce a new product or a new feature, or those who want to supplement family income by creating a small home-based business. We could advise them so they're not thrust into this on their own, all alone. The entrepreneur can be supported in many ways. We could identify inside of our parishes and our wider diocese and the wider community, we could identify people who have the entrepreneurial skill, and we could help train them. We could deal with their startup issues. We could give them advice and counsel, in addition to the grants, loans, and equity that I spoke about a few minutes ago. Let's turn now to the investor, person in the parish, group of people that would come together and put money into a pool, which would then be distributed according to professional, well-run, but Catholic criteria. And these would be distributed, by the way, grants, loans, and equity, just like we spoke about a few minutes ago. What would an investor want? Let's say we're talking about angel investors. An angel investor is somebody, as you know, who comes in right after the founder of the business. So usually the founder, the person who's starting a business, puts up the capital themselves. They either borrow from friends and family, they use their savings, they mortgage their house, they do all sorts of creative things in the normal risk profile, I'm not talking about ridiculous risks here. I'm talking about normal risk taking that people who want to start a business do. Investors don't have to be people who are professional investors. They don't have to be regulated in the parish level the same way you are if you're going to raise capital for outside deals. There's a difference between private capital to friends and associates versus taking in deal flow from the wider community. And those of you who know what I'm talking about will understand this difference. We don't need to go into it in detail today, but it is possible at the parish level among private groups of friends and associates and parishioners to do business this way. And so from the investor point of view, what does an investor want? Well, they want deal flow. They want to see deals. They want to see startups and early stage companies presented to them. So we would have to figure out a way, as we do with our angel investor groups, to have mentoring and coaching, entrepreneurs in residence, perhaps, groups, boards, advisors, people within the parish who have been there, done that in business, and who can advise the startup. The investor would want to see deal flow screened. So the screening would occur. Even inside the parish, there would be a set of criteria developed in which you then check off boxes, so to speak, as the startup or early stage company comes to you. And then you would check off the box. And if it looks like it's interesting to present to the investors, you would present them. And you would teach the entrepreneur to present in a certain format. At the Catholic CEO, we have a 12 key question format that is a pitch deck that can be presented in 10 minutes, 12 slides that can be presented in 10 minutes that completely tell the story at a high level, not full due diligence, but at a high level. Not that you're going to get a check of investment just because you fulfill 12 key questions in 10 minutes. No, but you will get the next meeting if you do that well. And the 12 key questions are designed to give you the 12 main things that are on the investor's mind. Not only that, but in the sequence that they are unveiled in the mind of the investor. This has taken 30 years to figure out, but we know how the mind of the investor generally works. There's 12 questions that have to be answered before they're going to conduct further due diligence. And so we would create this environment inside our parish. We would have a pitch deck format, 12 key questions, 10-minute pitches. We would have mentoring and coaching. We would have the possibility of giving loans, grants, or taking equity positions in companies. We would help to foster the startup of new businesses right in our own parishes. There's no reason we can't do this. Let me turn to the third mechanism of how we would do this. We've been talking about entrepreneurs, the investors, now advisors. What do I mean by advisors? Well, I mean people who, again, from within the parish or the wider diocese, depending on the size of the group, would sit on boards, would sit on governing boards, would sit on advisory boards, would form sort of advice groups within the parish. Can you imagine somebody in the parish wants to start a business? They would come before a group of seasoned business people inside their parish, Catholic business people running Catholic businesses who could advise on all sorts of features of startups like products, marketing, selling, intellectual property, capital, innovation, technology, banking, financing, all of the startup problems that people will face. There are people, believe me, in every parish who've already been there, done that. They could sit as an advisory group, confidential, safe, secure, private, high integrity, but they could advise. And so even if there were no entrepreneurs wanting to do complete startup or investors wanting to invest funds, even inside of a parish, existing businesses could come before a little advisory group, privately, confidentially, according to a certain format, well prepared, curated, as they say, and they could pose questions to that group and receive answers, receive input and advice. We have St. Joseph forums at the Catholic CEO, which are really intended to do this. They're groups of peers that work together under the leadership of an expert facilitator to solve business issues in real time. But inside of the parish, you could have a St. Joseph forum, or you could have a more informal group. You could have a group of people that simply advise on a confidential, private basis those who already have businesses. And what better way to foster the Catholic economy, support the family, support the parish, support fellow Catholics in charity and in justice, according to as they deserve, to help them foster business growth, good business practices, good business principles. If we did this and had the courage to create groups of advisors, investors, the entrepreneurs are there already. If we combine those three features of startups, you might call us accelerators or incubators. But within a parish, there's no reason that we couldn't have a mixture of entrepreneurs, investors, and advisors together working hand in hand to create a Catholic economy, using the mechanisms we talked about a few minutes ago, grants, loans, and equity. There's no reason we couldn't do this in an intelligent, professional way. The models are out there. They're already in place. All we need to do is adapt them for the Catholic community. And it will not be that difficult, honestly. Yes, it'll be difficult in the sense that this is going to require work and effort and organization. But the model exists. It doesn't have to be invented. This is the point. It doesn't have to be reinvented or start from scratch. It's already out there. And there are people that can help pull this off at the parish level. Can you imagine how if this swept all of the US and Canadian dioceses, hundreds and hundreds of dioceses, thousands of parishes, each supporting entrepreneurs, investors, advisors with grants, loans, and equity, and other supports and helps, we could create a Catholic economy. Those are some thoughts. Look forward to your input on these. Let's talk more. We're planning a summit soon in which we're going to be discussing these kinds of issues of how we do form a Catholic economy. What exactly do we do at the parish level? What are the steps? What are the ideas? What are the concerns that people have? The end result, we think, would be more Catholic businesses owned by Catholics, more employment opportunities within your parish, more influence in the culture. because as we become an economic force, as we buy together, as we sell together, as we invest in each other, as we advise each other, as we support each other in the development of Catholic family businesses, home-based businesses, startups, early stage companies, technologies, growth of existing businesses, creating pools of knowledge and influence. Together, we could influence the culture. We could change legislation. We could change laws. We could change the banking system. We could change the marketing system. We could change all aspects of the culture that are pressing in on Catholics and are forcing Catholics to choose between the Catholic faith and some practice that's inimical to the Catholic faith. We could do this. And so at the Catholic CEO, we believe that we can create this Catholic economy. We think that the elements are there already inside of our parishes. We think that the models are already there. We think that the templates are already there, and we think the expertise is there. We think there are people within the parishes that can fulfill all of this. All it requires, I'm saying this with a bit of irony, all it requires is for us to organize it, get going, and get it done. Let's think about this. Let's talk more. It's the Catholic CEO, Henry Katarna. Thanks for joining me today.